Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, January 23rd, 2025. Your Buckeyes, still champions. Woke up yesterday and was like, was that a dream? Not a dream. Getting a late start today, that is on me. Got the Dean, Bill Kurlick, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter, coming up. But we're going to start today with a dad brag. I'm going to brag on my eldest son, Darren Rubin, who is a senior at Denison University, plays basketball there, and has been through a lot. For anyone who has a college athlete that's battled injuries throughout their career, or any athlete that's done that, we've talked about Mark's son, young son getting injured. It is a challenge for a family. My son has persevered. Last night, he scored his 1,000th point in college. Did it in high school, too. And Denison improved to 16-1, 8-0 in the division, nationally ranked, and they are having the best season in the history of the program. So we hope they finish it off. I could not be more proud. Any of you that has a college athlete knows what has gone into that, and if you had a podcast, you would probably use it to congratulate your kids, so that's what I'm doing. I'm also going to use it to talk about Mando. If you saw Dave Biddle broadcasting live from Atlanta, he had his Mando in the hotel rooms. Mando is the whole body deodorant, safe anywhere to use on your body, created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being mistreated and misdiagnosed, clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. Want to try America's #1 whole body deodorant formula right now? You can find them in Walmart, Target, and other retailers across the country. For the best deals, go to shopmando.com. I got a deal for you guys here. If you go to shopmando.com and use code Bucknuts at mandopodcast.com/Bucknuts. mandopodcast.com/Bucknuts. 40% off. All right. Look at that. Look at that timing from the Dean. It's like slides right into his chair like he's on the highway jumping in an open window. We've got the Dean, Bill Kurlick, the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter. Gentlemen, it's true. Ohio State did win the national championship. I was telling the people I woke up yesterday and was like, oh no, it actually really did happen. It was not a dream. All right.
Can I also congratulate your son? And I originally thought you were all choked up talking about it, and I can understand that, but it's just you're sick. You're not really choked up, so
not even sick.
It almost choked me up that you were choked up talking about that with the son and having a son that like I was in the moment, and then I was like, oh, he's just sick. I'm the only one in that moment, so okay.
I was sick for a while, but that is from my vocal. Robert McIntosh is on point. It's not celebrating, Robert. I'm somewhat of a critical fan at the television and profane, as it were. So I watch a lot of the I let my son, my youngest, watch the championship game with me. But usually I don't like anyone around me because they're going to catch shrapnel. It's like that guy Cyclops when you take the glasses off. I'm just like, raw. Anyway, so I need to get a hold of that. But one guy who's always cool, and that's the Dean, Bill. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm sorry I interrupted. It's a funny point. Like, you think that your family and friends would be like, I want to watch the game with a Bucknuts expert just to see what's ticking in that brain of theirs. Like the guy that does Eye in the Sky, I'd love to sit by his shoulder and have him maybe tell me what he's seeing. My kids and my family could care less. Like they say, there's no interest in sitting with dad watching the game. So like you, a lot of times I get to watch it, in my own little mind, and I don't get the distractions, which, it's nice to be focused on this stuff.
Another slight digression. You might realize that Mr. Bucknuts has a big house and a big TV room with a giant TV, and he watches it sitting on the edge of the dining room table in the front of the house on a smaller dining room TV because no one can bother him there. So we all digressed. All right. We were late and a 5-minute digression. If you're still here, you are a Bucknutter. William, you also take an eye on the transfer portal. Has anything happened so far that has surprised you? Calvin Simpson Hunt hopped in there. I guess that was disappointing, but not shocking. Anything else surprise you so far? Any more surprises in store? There's big talk that Carnell Tate might enter. That feels like a rumor, but your thoughts on the portal now as we try and turn the page.
Well, I will say that personally, Calvin Simpson Hunt was a disappointment to me because I got to know him pretty well. When I was down in Texas, got to see him in person, meet with him, and a really nice young man. And I actually thought, he had a chance to be a good player for Ohio State. Just watching him in action and everything, I was impressed with him. But sometimes things don't work out, and maybe if he'd stayed, he would have been able to contribute. But Ohio State's in pretty good shape at cornerback in particular. Obviously Dwayne Matthews. He's going to be I think a very good player for Ohio State. We don't know for sure on England Nosen. He hasn't declared anything yet. And then, of course, you got Devin Sanchez coming in. So, maybe it's just that Calvin saw the handwriting on the wall, did not want to wait any longer. But good luck to him. We'll see where he lands, and I think he's going to be a good player wherever he lands. As far as any other surprises, again, the Carnell Tate, again, to me, that is, like you said, Dan, more of a rumor, but we'll see what's happened. He's not announced anything, but I guess I would say so. We'll see how that goes, and I think the main thing right now is that there is a few more days that we wait out some announcements. I mentioned about, I don't know, it was before at least a week or so ago that Lincoln Kienholz had talked with Pat Murphy and some other people covering the beat that he was going to stay through the playoff, or not through the playoffs, but through spring practice and compete for the job. And I think that's an important one. We'll see what happens there, but that's someone that they don't really want to get into the portal because right now they have, including him, 3 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster, and you always want at least 3.
Mark, I got a question for you. Do you think the fact that Jeremiah Smith had such a high-profile freshman year is helping or hurting Ohio State?
Oh, that helps for sure. I mean, and he's a good personality. Like, he's got the smile on his face. He's real, and they say it that he's real marketable. He's someone that when people see him, and the kids love him. I mean, I have a 11-year-old. You know how many Jeremiah Smith jerseys? I mean, you couldn't even get one. We tried to go to the mall, 2 different malls here. We couldn't get one for, he was so I think that is what football and all this stuff, behind the scenes is really about. These young kids and following their, their heroes, idols, whatever you want to call them. And Jeremiah Smith could be the face of the program for a couple more years. So you get to really exponentially grow his brand and your brand through him. And the plays he puts on film, when you run the package with, hey, here's Jeremiah Smith, and you run his 3 or 4 or 10 best plays, they're those jaw-dropping plays. It's not like you're just making up some touchdown where he runs in wide open or, he is a jaw-dropper, showstopper, he is the franchise when it comes to marketing. So I think, it's definitely helpful. Now, how does it hurt? Well, me, I can play devil's advocate and do high school debate team. You're going to have to pay him. You're going to have to pay him a lot. And he's worth it. And he's worth every penny because he is so proven and so solidified. And there's so much bona fide talent in the comparisons to the Terrell Owens and Julio Jones and the names you throw out in the rare air that he's in. So is that a negative? Does that affect the salary cap situation where, wow, we're allocating a lot over here? But I'm advocating that you advocate for him to get a lot because he's the one guy that you feel so solid about that, so good and bad to it, but we'll see.
Mark mentioned what I think is a 2-headed coin, and it's a good one. winning the national championship, you got to pay these guys more in all likelihood. But winning the national championship, people are more willing than ever to contribute to the funds and all. So, it's a great thing that you win the national championship. You do have to pay more in many cases, in some cases, but you have more money to work with theoretically, and I think that's going to be the case. People are going to be more willing than ever to invest in the Ohio State football program.
Here's what I think about it. It proves that to every kid being recruited, if you can come here and play as a true freshman and you're that good, you're going to play. It's a guarantee. That's a big deal, man. We have spent a lot of time pre-NIL era talking about how the younger guys don't get on the field fast enough. We just need to play the younger players. There's too much of a seniority thing here. That's done with. The beauty of getting Vegas involved, and by that I mean money, and money becoming the governing thing, you got to be able to play now. The benefit of the doubt probably isn't extended quite as long. That said, I expect Devin Sanchez to be given a chance to play. If he can play, he should be able to play. And that's a big deal, man, because the guys they're going after now have not just financial independence, but choices beyond what they've ever had. So you got to make it even more appealing. Let's talk about some of the other guys that are considering, that we've heard, that we've not seen the official bill. It's 4 days after the end that they have to declare, Bill?
Yeah, you've got 5 days. But okay. Before you mentioned Devin Sanchez, and I know Deetra is here. Good morning, Deetra. They not only does he have a chance to play, they're expecting him to play. Now, I've talked to Devin a number of times, and he's told me, they flat out told him, you don't have a choice. You need to come in and be ready to play because we're going to need you. So that's not guaranteeing him a starting job. They don't do that. They don't tell kids you are going to be a starter. You have to earn it. But they know how good he is, and they tell them, you're good enough to play. They know their needs, and you need to be ready because we are going to depend on you.
I don't think that's a surprise.
I was going to say, as we were talking earlier, and you were asking about the good and bad of Jeremiah Smith, I remember last year as seniors or guys at NFL eligible ready to leave, there was a narrative. And it was like this year, you won a national championship. Well, last year you didn't, and you lost to Michigan. So there was this narrative that, hey, we're coming back to finish the business. And there was like a big chip on Jack Sawyer's shoulder, all these guys' shoulder. I was thinking as we were talking about this, winning the national championship, like I've heard the narrative that, hey, that's what like Jim Knowles came here to do. If he left, that'd be okay. He was a hired gun to come in, and if he puts this pelt on his belt and goes on to another school, thank you for your services and we appreciate it. And, does that kind of send more guys off, or are there more guys likely to double down on the luck of actually winning a championship again? Like, can we go through another season next year? So I guess my question to you guys is, what kind of narrative do you see to keep guys around? Was it kind of weird that losing to Michigan last year put this chip in this narrative together, that it built this whole season, like these guys were back to finish the job? There's my question to you guys. I'm playing moderator for a second.
Right. I'll go, Bill. First off, it's going to be a different narrative. I mean, we do know now just this team is going to look a lot different just by graduation or exits. I do think they have an advantage over the rest of over an average team or another team repeating, in that their two best players are coming back. We're going to start next year with the best player on defense in Caleb Downs and the best player on offense in Jeremiah Smith. I think you'd be hard-pressed to go find a team that's going to be asked to repeat, that's going to have the luxury of bringing those guys back. And we're not talking about just like really good players to bring back. You're really talking about two guys who have a chance to establish themselves as really like Mount Rushmore level Buckeyes. And in this program, that is really saying something. So you have that. You also have the fact that Ohio State's maybe unproven. They've got answers at quarterback. A lot of other teams that go back to do this just don't have the talent at quarterback. What you think of Julian Sain and Tavian St. Clair and Lincoln Keenholz, the talent is there. It just needs to be molded. There's not going to be a smoke and mirrors year where they have to grind it out. Thirdly, they've already crushed the portal. The biggest issue of this year was the offensive line, and I would make a really strong argument right now that provided we start the season healthy, and good Lord, on a 16-game, 17-game season, whatever it is, you got to be healthy. I think they'll be better on the offensive line. So that would be my argument towards it. I think we had some really, really good players who played complementary roles. They're ready to blossom. Your Brandon Innes's of the world. So I'm just very positive about it. Go ahead.
There's not like a for or against. Like you kind of said that, but I'm like, yeah, as you're laying this out, that's kind of the new narrative. Like, hey, it is a young team. There's, opportunities. We've proven we can fill holes by portal or freshmen or whatever may happen. But it certainly is definitely an entirely new narrative as of what we had last year. And it's funny how that narrative worked after losing a losing season and finishing with kind of like a real horrible game at Missouri, that the narrative carried through this year. And, in Dynasty, I saw that comment. Let's talk about that. Like the Niners and Cowboys, when, 80s and 90s, they jumped out in front of that era where they built rosters and they found ways in that era before, the rules restrictions hit where they couldn't do what they were doing. And right now, Ohio State and maybe 3 or 4 other teams are in that model of, okay, our cap's going to 25 or 30 million next year. We're going to keep more seniors. We're going to sell. I mean, I'm seeing so many college seniors, juniors getting paid more to stay one more year in college than to go be a rookie. Never in the history of sports have we seen that. And it makes a lot more
basketball.
Sense. Well, I'm football. Basketball.
I'm just saying, and I agree with you, but those people are in the same building and they've seen it. See what I'm saying? It's not, who's the guy? Is it Dickerson? Hunter Dickinson. He's a DC guy. Hunter Dickinson is at Kansas. He's not going to be a great pro, but look at the kid at Miami. Carson Beck is going to be the poster child of this now. He is now the poster child
and
of maxing out.
Yeah. And I'm football. I mean, I'm baseball, basketball ignorant to stuff like that. So my blinders are on for football. But in football, because the rosters are so big, we've never been able to pay NFL rookie salary minimums, or do that with the opportunity to improve your draft stock 1 year later and really show this financial, you better stick around. This is going to make you X amount more. So it's a whole new day and age. And I think we're going to be on the cutting edge of, we're paying 3 or 4 guys on our team more than rookie contracts. And that could be the new trend. And let's see if that happens.
Okay, but I want to be clear on this. They did not do that this time around. I know how much everyone got. I can't release it because it's not technically information, and it's not as much as everyone thinks. Now, it's plenty, but it's not like this 2-year, $9 million contract stuff. They didn't do anything like that. So I'm going to read one ad, excuse me, and come back with a tribute to someone who may not have thought they were ever going to get a tribute on this show. And it's Factor Meals. You've seen them everywhere. You're ready to optimize. What is that? That's not even a word. I am struggling. Ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. Dietitian approved, ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. I've said this before. I am a microwave food snob. I think it's gross. Somehow Factor has found the algorithm where you can eat chicken. It tastes delicious. Meat tastes delicious. 40 options across 8 dietary preferences. So everything's there that you need. Kid tested, mother approved. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 off. The word Bucknuts 50 off. You get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. Go do it now. I apologize for my voice. All right. I need to find a comment here from a very interested and productive. Good Lord, you guys are talking a lot today. I promise you this is going to be worth it.
And
Go ahead, Bill.
Holtz that we've talked about a decent amount of time. Think if you're Lincoln Keenholz and thinking about, do you want to stay and battle for the job at least into the spring? And you've just watched Will Howard and what he did in the Ohio State offense and the money he helped himself make in all likelihood by performing so well. And part of that performing well is playing for Ohio State and Ryan Day's offense. Why wouldn't you want to fight it out for the chance to do that? If you get that opportunity and take advantage of it, what a situation to be in.
Not to mention, how old will Lincoln Keenholz be if he stayed this whole year? He could still transfer after this and have X number of years somewhere else. These guys almost had the runway has even gotten longer for these guys. And the runway is you're going to go get somewhere else and get paid. Keep that in mind. In the past, we were worried about transfers. They would transfer to Missouri or whatever. They weren't transferring to Missouri for $1 million. They were just transferring. It certainly will. I'll wait and take a shot at Ohio State for another year. If not, I go to be, at Directional State. They give me $1 million. That sounds pretty good. No? All right. Here's what I want to do here.
The Frye comment.
Erica Cara, who is what I would call an inside source on this information. Good morning, fellas. Can we finally put some respect on Coach Frye's name? The line did their thing, and we're only going to get better. Well, she knows this for sure because she is under somewhat of a legal obligation to feed the Armstrong twins consistently, which is, I think Northeast Ohio probably thanks that she's doing that, not everyone else, but she is proud mama. And hold on a sec. Knowles deserves this. One thing these coaches definitely deserve is to be judged on their complete body of work. Okay. So during the season, obviously we are commenting as we go and, maybe not giving them full credit for what they've done. When you look back at this season, you could write a book about the offensive line, literally, and what they've done to cobble the thing together and be successful. When you throw in the fact that Donovan Jackson went from left guard to left tackle, when you throw in the injuries, Josh Simmons, who, by the way, arrived here. How many of you honestly knew who Josh Simmons was before he transferred here? Honestly. He went from a nondescript right tackle at San Diego State. There's a good chance he's going to be the first tackle picked in the draft coming off a knee injury. You know how hard that is? You know how good you have to be? So whatever they did with him, it worked. By the way, if you were a transfer now in the going to the portal, where would you want to go? The place that can turn you into a left tackle from right tackle and make you a first-round draft pick even if you get injured? I imagine that's pretty appealing. Add to that, look how they performed down the stretch. I don't know if you guys are fans of Pro Football Focus. That was Notre Dame's and Texas's worst defensive line performance of the year. Worst statistically. And they went up against a cobbled together offensive line. Justin Frye deserves a ton of credit. And look, we probably deserve as much blame as anybody for pumping up the elite offensive linemen. What is it? We did the David Sanders. Was it Brandon Baker? And my guy at Colorado, whose name is escaping me.
It's Jordan Seaton. DC
guy too, which is a shame. But look, we didn't get them. But the results speak for themselves. We won the national championship, and the offensive line was a big deal. So I blame Bill. We put too much focus on recruiting in that case. And I digress and I kid. But seriously, this guy deserves a lot of credit. Maybe he's not going to get the David Sanders of the world. The goal is to win the championship. So clearly getting the David Sanders or the Brandon Baker of the world was not a prerequisite for winning the championship. More power to Justin Frye. His guys have gotten better. Luke Montgomery, who was buried after a huge preseason, somehow was kicking butt in the playoffs. So he stayed ready. they kept him mentally and physically involved enough that he somehow was able to perform. All right, Erica Carr, I think that's my tribute to Coach Frye, and I would like you to now take over, Mark, as my voice is absolutely leaving.
Bill's over there talking, and we can't hear him, so.
Go ahead, Bill.
You look at the whole body of work for Justin Frye. He has gotten a lot of criticism for what I think is one part of the thing, for not being able to get the big time out of state recruits, like the David Sanders, for instance. When you look at how he's done in Ohio, he's done pretty darn well. He hasn't missed on much in Ohio that he's wanted. Now, there's been some Ohioans have gone elsewhere, but those weren't the guys that he wanted. The guys in Ohio he wanted, he's generally for the almost totally got. He's also done very well recruiting in the portal, and you mentioned it. It's not always the biggest names. Josh Simmons was not the biggest name, but he turned out to be as good as anybody or better. But coaching-wise, you cannot quip with what he has done. With what he's had, he's done very well. And I will say that the tide may be turning as far as getting the out-of-state guys. He did get Ian Moore last year. Ian Moore was a pretty big get. He's an Indiana kid that Notre Dame kind of blew it on. Their offensive line coach at that point didn't like him that much. When they got a different offensive line coach, they tried to go back in on Ian Moore, and he said, I'm staying with Ohio State. And when you look at the class of 2026 out-of-state guys they might get, they've got, I don't know that I certainly wouldn't count him as a favorite right now, but the top guy, Jackson Cantwell, he's got Ohio State in his final group of schools, large group right now, but 8, 9 schools. He's got Ohio State in there and highly considering Ohio State. Felix Ojo from Texas is really a good player. Not going to be easy to pull him out of Texas, but he likes Ohio State. He's considering them. Micah Smith, my goodness, kid's from Florida, and he's already been to Ohio State almost a half dozen times. He is highly considering Ohio State. Deron Parks from Florida, another kid that Ohio State goes all in on him, and he's ready. He could absolutely be an Ohio State guy. J.B. Shapaz from North Carolina is another one. So the tide might be turning on that out-of-state big-name guys for Justin Frye.
Marcus, your thoughts?
Yeah, I like how we started this off. We started the podcast Tuesday when I said, I want it reported with the same emphasis, and you put in your Des Bryant invitation. You can do it again if you want, but I like that.
Same intensity?
Yeah, I like that the Bucknuts fans that have been following this are educated enough, and I see the comment from Detroit. He's being judged on big-time guys. That's not his fault. I made the comparison. The Cleveland Browns offensive line coach isn't getting fired because they can't land the biggest free agent or the best offensive lineman in the draft every year. It's just out of his control. All he can do is coach the X's and O's. I said it early in the year. There are not X's and O's problems on film anywhere. There are not missed blocks. There are not kids missing assignments. To your point, he's brought kids along that have had to step into the fire and perform at peak level with, not really the 2 or 3 easy games at the beginning of the year to get going. So the pass protection, it's epic this year. I mean, it's legendary.
Literally, though.
Literally. I almost am mad that I didn't bring more attention to that sooner and say, listen, not only the X's and O's good, there's one aspect of this that's absolutely on a different level. Okay. So you might be talking about Justin Frye as one of the best offensive line coaches in the country.
Yeah.
Where months ago, there was debatable, message board things that, were being talked about.
Ask Seth McLaughlin how good an offensive line coach that
he can't snap, Bill. He doesn't know how to shotgun snap. It's not him. Go ahead.
And you know what? Seth McLaughlin didn't exactly come from a bad program. He came from Alabama, and he raves about how good an offensive line coach Justin Frye is.
Okay, I don't know if I should be saying this, and I apologize to Seth McLaughlin if so. but we had posted something on our site, and there was a glitch, and so it cut out part of a sentence, and so it was a sentence talking about where he was from and stuff, and it mentioned Alabama. He sent us a private tweet saying, please make sure you also put in the end of that sentence where I talked about how much I love Ohio State. I identify more as a Buckeye now anyway. So Seth McLaughlin you can't get a better free agent pickup in the portal than Seth McLaughlin. If you bring a guy in and he wins the award for the position, that's good work. If you bring a guy in at left tackle and he goes in, I know people are saying Will Campbell's going to get picked in front of him. He's not. Just wait. I follow a couple draft geeks who are completely unbiased, and every single thing they've said so far comes true when that information gets through the media. So just wait on that one. Will Campbell might also be a guard, put it that way. Anyway, so they've done tremendous, and I'm really glad we got a chance to give Coach Frye that credit, because had we been sworn to secrecy or silence and never spoke about any of the coaches, and now you talked about Justin Frye and what they've been through, it would be incredible. I also wanted to point this out just one last time before we move off coaches. We won the championship in 2014, and I'm telling you the truth. At that time, there were people negative recruiting Larry Johnson, saying he was going to retire. That was a decade ago. Every single person who said that is in a different job, except Larry Johnson now. So those who stuck with Larry did the right thing. Okay, rapid fire here. I'm going to ask about some recruits, Bill, and then Mark, feel free to hop in. We're kind of getting reaffirmed with names. Bill, the guy who's got the inside track to be the most mentioned player going forward is Chris Henry Jr. Bring us up to speed on where he's committed. If someone who had never heard of Chris Henry Jr. and you were quickly getting him up to speed, what would you say?
Chris Henry remains committed to Ohio State. He is continuing to look at other schools, and Ohio State would prefer he just shut it down. They obviously would like him to say, all right, it's done. I'm not visiting. But in this day and age, especially when kids can get paid for visits, that's not the way the world works anymore. If you're Chris Henry, if you're Jeremiah Smith back when he was recruiting, you can't tell these kids, well, shut it down or we're pulling your offer. You're not going to do that. So they have to play through this. Ohio State does, with Chris Henry visiting other schools. And, what if, and then again, I am not saying this is going to happen. What if Brian Hartline leaves Ohio State? Well, he'll be better prepared for making his final decision. I'm not saying Brian Hartline is leaving Ohio State at all, but that's the kind of thing you have to look at. Coaches do leave, and kids prepare themselves. Jeremiah Smith, we talked about this. As long as Brian Hartline was going to be at Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith was going to be at Ohio State. And I think that's a similar thing with Chris Henry Jr. He's been recruiting for Ohio State, for Pete's sake. He's told me more than once he's been and continuing to recruit for Ohio State. So I think, again, as long as things don't change at Ohio State, I like Ohio State's chances. There's always the caveat there that, is there someone that's absolutely going to blow him away with a ridiculous offer? Well, if he comes to Ohio State, he's going to get his money there, and he's going to get his money eventually in the NFL.
Running back, Savion Hyder.
Well, right now I think that Ohio State, I know Ohio State is one of his 5 schools, and he's told me more than once how impressed he is with Ohio State. He's obviously been to Ohio State. He's been to a game. And I think Michigan right now is getting most of the attention if you had to pick a leader, but we'll see what happens. I think Savion will, in all likelihood, take at least a few official visits, at least from what he's told me. And Ohio State's got a national championship where they just featured 2 running backs, and they featured them very, very well.
Running back from Delaware Hayes, a guy we watch on the show, Favor Air.
Favor Aki.
What is his name?
Favor Aki.
What did I say? Favor Air? I made him French. Good Lord. I apologize to the Aki family.
Related to Pierre Garcon.
Fox pass from me. Go ahead.
Matter of fact, one of the first times I talked to him, I always tell if I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce a young man's name, I ask him because it's important to pronounce their names correctly.
Yes, it is.
Being, if I'm on TV, radio, whatever. So, first time I talked to him, I said, I need to make sure, 100% sure how I pronounce your name. And he said, Favor Aki. And I said, that's the way I'm going to go with it.
Favor Aki. I'm writing that down right now. I will not pronounce that incorrectly. I will not make you move to the Western Europe. Okay, go ahead.
I'm like the Abdul Butcher of names. I have slaughtered some people, so let me apologize.
Favor Aki, I talked to him again. I think it was here last night or the night before, and he's pretty excited about what he saw at Ohio State's playoff run. Carlos Lachlan spoke with Favor, I think, 2 days ago, and invited him. It was either yesterday or 2 days ago. Invited him to the national championship celebration on Sunday in Ohio Stadium. Favor said, 100%, I am not missing that. I will be there. If and when Ohio State offers him a scholarship, then they're going to be an absolute top contender for him. They haven't offered him yet, but in the last 2 weeks, he has doubled his scholarship offer list from 8 to 16. That kind of shows you how Favor Aki is blowing up recruiting-wise.
I tell you, Bruce and I could sit and be sarcastic and knucklehead dad jokes for a while. I find that entertaining, embarrassing as it may be. We could go forever here. How about this? We have a treat for you right now. We're going to take a little bit of a look at Buckeye in the Sky. Obviously, you guys know this. Mark takes on the task of breaking down the film. We never know how many editions we're going to get. This year, we are packed. As many Buckeye in the Sky games as you could have. Because actually, that's not true. We did not go to the Big Ten title game, so I apologize. -1, but we threw in the championship for you. So, Mark, take it away. This is just a look at the first half, but it was a masterclass.
As you say that, going back when we started the Buckeye in the Sky, if we did 4 plays from a game, we were happy. I think we're at 19 plays this week, so 2 breakdowns of 9 and 8 plays, a couple of 5-minute sessions, just enough to take a little coffee break at work. So fun to break down magical games like this when the plays are so much more meaningful. And it's funny, as I break this down, I'm going to talk here for a second. The concepts, even though it's a national championship game, they're no different than week 1 if you were playing Western Michigan. Same defenses, same plays. But it just seems more magical because it's run in the most crucial moments of the year. Ohio State 7 in the box. Notre Dame's 5 wides right here. There's no running back. So do you really think that they were going to throw it in 5 wides, or after running it with their quarterback 8 times, they were just looking for a way to scheme him up with less numbers? And that's all it was. They were trying to get less numbers in there. They're actually going to motion in here.
And this is the end of that first long drive for them.
Yeah, first quarter, end of the drive. This was more important of a down maybe than when they scored, because it's a 4th and 1 here, and it's really, points or no points here. Pretty easy after this when it's 1st and goal from the 3 to score, but this was a key play. And that's all the strategy was here. I mean, this is middle school strategy. Let's pretend like we're in 5 wides and motion someone in and then run in the box. It's a gap scheme where they're going to bring the guard and the H-back around. So it's a pretty heavy run scheme. And they're going to do a good job of creating push. That whole drive they created push. The only part of this I don't like is Cody Simon and the quarterback end up being one-on-one here. And in Cody's defense, there's some other push on him. That lineman's got a hold of him. There's a pile coming at him. Yeah, and he probably should have just chopped them down lower. Okay, so we're critical and we're complimentary here, but that was the problem there. We were soft on that opening drive. And I think you said it last podcast, sometimes that first drive, you kind of feel it out on defense. Yeah. You kind of come out there in your base and see where they kind of hit you. Okay, it's all jabs right now. Let's get into our jab preventer. So we obviously shored things up immediately. It's funny, we were breaking down pretty much the exact same concept coming the other way. Ohio State has the ball, 7 in the box, and they want to run their quarterback. Instead of motioning someone in, they have their tailback in the backfield. So you could imagine him out here motioning in just like Notre Dame did. but this is a very similar concept. Ohio State's going to block down and gap just like Notre Dame just did, but they're going to use their tight end here to do the kick out block, which instead of the tight end going for the linebacker inside, he's just doing that because there's a natural seam. Luke Montgomery's going to pull around and get up on the linebacker. And of course you have Henderson as the extra blocker. Will Howard, the 240-pound, bruising back. I think our hole looked better than Notre Dame's. I think it was cleaner. And if Will doesn't get a little trip right here, it seems like he could have made a little more damage.
Judkins too, dude.
Yeah.
Judkins brings it. He puts his helmet right underneath the guy's chin consistently.
Talk about yards after contact. And we have a play coming up. I know where, he from the 5-yard in was pretty.
I'm just saying on that play, he was one of the blockers. He is no joke.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite Chip Kelly moments. He always has a deep bag, and this was one from the bag, obviously. This corner knows something's going on pre-snap. And when it was live, I kind of said, what does he see? When they motioned over the trips, that messes with their man-to-man coverage, okay? And he's in man-to-man, and we'll see the lines come up here. But as Jeremiah Smith, you can see these other guys in man-to-man, which proves they're in man-to-man. That guy right there has to try to run to the other side. If Jeremiah is getting a sweep or he's going for a flat pass, we're going to run fake that way to bring even more action that way.
Yep.
Now, look at the space between Jeremiah and that guy. And when Jeremiah flips, he's got at least 10 or 15 yards. Even if that DB was showing up in the picture now, do you really want Jeremiah Smith one-on-one with your guy and all that space?
There's a blocker.
It's so well.
Kate could have blocked him. Yeah.
We don't have the coaches all 22 tape, but that's amazing to have that schemed up. And not to digress, but if you remember Andy Reid in the Super Bowl, he did Sky Moore in and out. And they did the same type of thing where they mess with that man and it looks like a jet sweep or whatever you're trying to do. And it's tough for those guys. And what a nice time for them to pull it out. Okay, cover 2 or cover 4 shell pre-snap. But Notre Dame, you're going to see it here, is going to bring that safety up. You can see as the circles let go here, he walks up. He's actually going to blitz, which is going to put Notre Dame into a cover 3. And at the bottom of the screen, this is some of the easiest football you're going to see. It's a flat hitch combo. You simply read the Will linebacker or whatever he is, and okay, he's not going to go cover that flat route. You see, the quick out right there. I don't know if that's stealing in a national championship game. That's a day one concept from camp, and there you have it for a wide open guy for 10 yards. So it's fun breaking this type of a game down. But these concepts.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. He just took 7 steps before he got touched with the ball.
With the most basic concept on a day one install for a middle school team. I swear on the Bible, our day one install for our 6th grade team was the flat hitch behind a combo to beat cover 3 or whatever it is and play with the flat defender. It's such an easy read for a young quarterback. And it was so poorly executed by Notre Dame there. It just, that's why I said at the beginning of this, it's so funny to see these concepts that are concepts you'd see against Western Michigan week 1, but all of a sudden they're in a national championship game and they're getting you first downs and moving the ball against a great defense, and plenty more of that to watch if you're, premium member.
And we'll have that in 2 parts. The first part will be up later this afternoon, and then we will go from there. All right, I'm going to let these guys go. Mark, thank you. Bill, thank you. And I'm going to read our final ad. Rocket Money. If you made it to this part of the show, you got a lot of things going for you, and I'm sure you need to do with your finances. How many of you have little subscriptions everywhere and you get your bill every month and you're like, where do these come from? What Rocket Money does, gets everything in one space. A personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/gameon, GAMEON today, and you'll get a deal courtesy of Bucknuts. That's rocketmoney.com/gameon, rocketmoney.com/gameon. If I remind you of Joe Pesci, you are not from the East Coast. All right. Have a good one. Nutters of Buck.